Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, according to some in the tech community, a ludicrous, dangerous, and technically illiterate proposal is making its way through the Senate Intelligence Committee. Now, this bit of legislation is called the Compliance with Court Orders Act, and it would require technology companies to design and manufacture smartphones, computers, and software that's accessible to government. Apple, Microsoft, Google, and other corporations would be required to provide backdoor keys and encryption workarounds if this bill becomes the law. Now, according to the act, it requires the provision of data in an intelligible format to a government pursuant to a court order and for other purposes. And of course, the bill does not define what those other purposes are. Now, committee chairman Richard Burr says consumers have a right to seek solutions that protect their information. I do not believe, however, that those solutions should be above the law. And the vice chairman, Dianne Feinstein, says no entity or individual is above the law. Well, now you'll recall that James Comey came out a few weeks ago and said that American people needed to demand to know how the government is using their information. Obviously, you know, they're kind of backtracking here on that. But here's someone that is above the law, apparently, the Department of Justice. Now, Microsoft is actually suing them over gag laws that they say are blocking customers from knowing that the government is getting their data. Now, they filed this lawsuit today. This is against the U.S. Justice Department. They claim the government's authority to block the technology companies from notifying customers when their personal data has been accessed is unconstitutional. And the lawsuit alleges that the federal government is increasingly using search warrants to comb through customer information that's held by Microsoft, and that is essentially banning the company from ever letting people know about the government's behavior. And of course, this is very important if people are in a court case and they need to build up their defense. They don't know how the Department of Justice is accessing this information. Microsoft said it understands there are times when secrecy is needed, but that the rising number of orders has caused it to question whether the government's policy is too lax. So you give them an inch, they take a mile. Now, others have suggested that companies like Microsoft have become less willing to cooperate with the government, even when these search warrants have been approved. And in other battles like we've seen between the FBI and Apple over their encrypted iPhones, companies are leaning more toward privacy in order to protect their customer base, and the government just cannot have that. Now, if you go back to this Compliance with Court Orders Act, a chief technologist at the Center for Democracy and Technology says this is effectively the most anti-crypto bill of all anti-crypto bills. It basically outlaws end-to-end encryption, and Wired argues that the bill ignores the conclusion of top cryptographers that weakening encryption would be used by hackers and foreign governments to steal personal data. And during its battle with the FBI in court over encryption, Apple said that removing security measures on devices would amount to unilateral disarmament in an endless war with hackers. Oh, but the government is not concerned with that. They just need to be able to get in and spy on you and me, even though it has not helped them stop a single terror attack. But check this out. According to the latest report, the U.S. government is worse than all major industries on cybersecurity. So we should listen to them when they say that companies should be forced to put a backdoor in all of our products so that they can easily access them and spy them. Who cares if it's going to be this unilateral disarmament and we will be in endless war with hackers? The government, they came in last, and this is transportation, retail, and healthcare. The U.S. federal, state, and local government agencies ranked last in cybersecurity, and this is according to analysis from Security Scorecard. They measured the relative security health of government industries across 10 categories, including vulnerability to malware infections, exposure rates of passwords, and susceptibility to social engineering, such as an employee using corporate account information on a public social network. And they tracked major government data from April 2015 to April 2016, and they scored absolutely last from all major industries. So why are we trusting these people and allowing them to pass anti-crypto bills when they don't even understand it? They spent millions of dollars trying to build a defective healthcare.gov, and of course they've been hacked into numerous times. but you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's just go ahead and give them full access to all of our private information. But here's another government agency that's a little untrustworthy, but for whatever reason, they are in control of just about all of our lives, especially right around tax season. Well, now a federal judge is calling the IRS untrustworthy in the Tea Party case. Now, dozens of groups have, of course, said that the IRS not only treated them badly in the past, but that the agency continues to subject them to special monitoring and intrusive scrutiny, damaging their reputation among potential donors and making it more likely that the groups are going to face an audit because of their political beliefs. But the IRS insists it has retrained its employees and instructed managers to behave better. But the panel of judges on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia did not seem convinced, and the judge said it's hard to find the IRS to be an agency we can trust. And now the lawyer for the IRS at one point acknowledged that there were still potential problems with the way the agency monitors cases going forward, but insists that the initial targeting at the point groups applying for the nonprofit status, that initial targeting, that's ended. I mean, there might still be some potential problems moving forward, but they've trained them, everything's fine. Just look away and, there's no need to revise the tax system. Everything's working. It's not a bloated government. Now, one company that is finally speaking out against this administration and its bullies within the administration is a shoe company here that actually makes a small percentage, mind you, of its shoes here in America. This is New Balance. Now, they are speaking out against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Boston Globe is reporting that the U.S.-based shoe manufacturer New Balance has come out hard against the TPP, and now we know why. They say New Balance officials were told by the Department of Defense that they'd give them serious consideration for a contract to outfit recruits with athletic shoes, but no order has been placed, and New Balance officials say the Pentagon is intentionally delaying any purchases. And so now New Balance is reviving its fight against the trade deal, which would in part gradually phase out tariffs on shoes made in Vietnam. A loss of those tariffs would make imports cheaper and jeopardize its factory jobs in New England. And the VP of Public Affairs for the company says, "We swallowed the poison pill that is TPP so we could have a chance to bid on these contracts. We were assured this would be a top-down approach at the Department of Defense if we agreed to either support or remain neutral on the TPP. But of course, now they see the chances of the Department of Defense buying shoes that are made in the USA are slim to none while Obama is president." And if this is just a shoe company speaking out, imagine all of the other corporations that are being silenced by the Obama administration in order to pass through the TPP. Other companies that can see how detrimental this is going to be to American businesses, what remains of the American industry. They're not speaking out. Possibly they've also been promised a little cut of the deal. So this is very interesting, and I hope that we see some other American corporations speaking out, letting their conscience get the better of them. One person who, as we know, is not going to do that because he's all in on these globalist policies is Mark Zuckerberg. And of course, the other day, Zuckerberg spoke out against Trump's plans to build the wall, saying that it would prevent a connected world and a global economy. But of course, Donald Trump has hit back, saying that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg's criticism of this border wall is pretty hypocritical because Zuckerberg lives in a luxurious mansion with private security miles away from the U.S. border. And as we know, he's got a massive wall around his compound and tons of security. Of course, he doesn't want you to have guns, just his security guards. Oh, Zuckerberg. Now, the University of Wisconsin is just the latest university who is now singling out white students for some re-education. And this was a special workshop hosted on Tuesday for the purpose of getting white students to acknowledge and confront their own white privilege. And the workshop is called The Privilege of Whiteness. And it's designed for white people to reflect on and name the ways their privilege impacts their beliefs and behaviors by gaining the skills to identify the historical roots of white privilege and how it manifests today. Oh, I'm exhausted just reading that sentence. But that's not the only university. A business class at Purdue University is actually teaching students the phrase, "America is a melting pot," is a microaggression. Yep, that's right. That's a microaggression. America can't be a melting pot. Additional microaggressions include, where are you from? There is only one race, the human race. Everyone can succeed in society if they work hard enough. And I believe the most qualified person should get the job. Who knew? Anita Sarkeesian was right. Everything's racist, everything's sexist, everything's homophobic, and we've got to point it all out. Now, the Sanders supporters, the Sanders camp, they've actually triggered the Clinton camp. A very popular Twitter account in support of Bernie Sanders tweeted out how people need to stop voting in corporate Democratic whores. Well, oh my God, super sexist. You can't call Hillary Clinton a corporate whore. And she demanded that Bernie Sanders disavow his supporters' comments on Twitter. But you know what? Let's go to our trusty little Urban Dictionary back here. This is, if you want to know what the kids are into these days, go to Urban Dictionary. And you can see there the definition for corporate whore, written in about 2008, includes Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. So I don't know. That's a fax right there, right? Straight out of the Urban Dictionary. And the corporate media whores have descended upon New York. More than 700 of them will be covering tonight's Democratic debate. Interesting to see if this topic will be brought up. But you know what? What's the point? We have all now come to the realization that the entire system is rigged. Now, Brian Toohey joined the Alex Jones Show today to talk about the sports organizations that are rigging their own games for their own benefit, much like our political system.
The other way I like to look at a potential fix is the league fixing their own games. And that's something a lot of people, and that's why I get labeled a conspiracy theorist for, but that's what a lot of people don't necessarily consider, is the fact that the leagues can use the same apparatus that organized crime is used to fix games. They could use those same things to fix their own games, and they have actually more control over their own games. And the fact of the matter is they have more to gain from fixing their own games, because that's how they make their money, is through fan interest and television ratings. And if they fix games to make them exciting, and I'm not saying every game is fixed, but just certain tweaks here and there to manipulate their own league, well, then they're going to make more profit, and it's going to benefit everybody involved, from the players, the coaches, the owners, everyone.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'd never thought about that. I mean, we always, as you point out, we always think about organized crime, leaning on people, or basically, threatening them or incentivizing them to throw a game so that they can make a lot of money off the gambling. I had never really thought about the leagues fixing it for themselves to make it more entertaining. But of course, that's yet another parallel to politics. It's absolutely amazing.
You have people who are voting with what they believe. And, people can say that's right, that's wrong, you should vote for this candidate, not that candidate. But when the fact of the matter is, when you have your vote and you think it counts for a delegate, for example, towards Donald Trump, and the Republican Party is coming out and saying, well, maybe it's not going to, we're going to spin it to somebody else, whoever we deem necessary, well, then, it makes you feel as a voter, does your vote count? Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the grand scheme thing that they're trying to do, is trying to show you that maybe your vote doesn't count.
Yeah.
And maybe they do just really control everything. And that's, as an American, that should be a really frightening situation. Whether you want Trump in or you don't want Trump in, the fact of the matter that this is occurring should make you really second guess everything.
And I think that may be part of the game. Maybe trying to get people so disillusioned with the system that they don't show up, because I believe that if they have enough people show up, I believe that they can shave points just like they do in sporting events. They can shave points at the poll. They can shave points in terms of delegate selection and that sort of thing. They can stuff the ballot box, or they can manipulate the voting machines to shave points. But I think if you come in with an overwhelming number of people, they will pull back and try to rig the system at the next level instead of trying to do it in the election. So I think part of this exposure is to just discourage people from even showing up and voting. I think that's a real key part of this.
And with 700 reporters in attendance for tonight's Democratic debate, we know what's going to be in the news for the foreseeable future. Well, Jakari Jackson wanted to find out, what are people here in Austin, Texas sick and tired of hearing about?
We're out here in the streets of Austin to ask people, with all the news that's going on, what news story are they most tired of hearing about? Hey, how you doing today, ladies?
We're fine.
Good. We're just asking people, what news story are you most tired of hearing about?
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Everybody?
Yes.
Donald Trump.
All I hear about.
We're asking people what news story they're most tired of hearing about.
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
I would say Kardashians, Zika, and Donald Trump. And what else? I think that's it. Those three.
The unholy trinity.
The election.
The election.
It's bad.
I'm right there with you.
I haven't been on Facebook in weeks, mostly because I got a new baby, but I just stay away from Facebook. I stay away from all of it. Honestly, I'm not even really listening to Alex Jones anymore because I can't handle listening to any more political stuff.
Is there anything that we should be talking about instead? Anything you think is more important?
I just think finding a great leader for our country is really important right now. And just all the swirling around negative things about candidates, I think needs to stop.
Is there anything that we should be talking about instead of Donald Trump?
I think, what are we going to do with the homeless people?
My fellow info warriors, my fellow Americans, there's never been an attack on our voting rights and our free speech in this country's history like we're seeing right now. Last weekend, they canceled the election in Colorado for the Republican primary and awarded all the delegates to Ted Cruz. The media is spinning it like that's normal. Now, 4 other states are canceling, and they're just going to give the delegates directly to Ted Cruz. This is incredible. Well, Coloradans are upset, and they're going to be there Friday, and so are Rob Dew, and so is Joe Biggs. And then we're going to go to Portland the next day. We're going to show you some of that footage where the left has announced with communist banners, no free speech, no Trump allowed. So this is pure tyranny, an attack on free speech on every front. Rob Dew, tell us about the events.
All right, so Friday, April 15th from 3 to 6, we're going to be at the Colorado GOP headquarters at 5950 South Willow Drive, and that's in Greenwood Village, Colorado. We're going to go there and support the rest of the GOP, who's mad as hell. 1 million GOPers are pissed off that they didn't get to cast their vote for the President of the United States, for the Republican Party.
And imagine if 1 million black people have been disenfranchised. People are upset about that. Jim Crow laws, I am too, but what about what's happening now to everybody and this precedent? And let's be clear, this is about free speech, not even about Trump. This is very, very important. Everybody needs to be there, and everybody needs to get their friends and family to go there.
Portland State Students for Donald Trump, that'll start at 2 o'clock. Location will be the Smith Memorial Student Union. That's at 1825 Southwest Broadway in Portland, Oregon. So we're going to be out there as well, standing with these students who want to have this meeting in support of Donald Trump. That is their right. That is their freedom of speech.
And these bullies have been trying to stop it. So on Infowars.com, we're going to have an article up by tonight breaking down the maps where it is. Come out and support these reporters, also in free speech. But they're going to be wearing Trump hats and Infowars shirts, just to show the type of garbage that's going on. You've seen the clips, Biggs. We're gonna play just a few clips of it now of Portland. These people are scary.
Like what they just did to you, like interrupt, like I just saw them interrupt you while we're trying to finish a little more space.
Then leave. Nobody's stopping you. Go that way. Actually commenting on, I'd actually rather not be recorded.
Film people when you,
no, it's not. It's in a public area.
It is illegal to film people when they tell you not to film them.
I'm on stack, you f***ers. Shut the f*** up. If you don't let her talk, I will f*** it up.
What's incredible about Portland is that it's faculty there screaming at people saying you have no free speech.
The staff, the staff was yelling at people. They're like, shut up, sit down, we're gonna tell you what's going on. And they said, if you have another event, we're gonna come back. So here it is. There's gonna be another event on Saturday. So are you gonna be there? We'll see. We'll see if free speech gets under attack at Portland State University.
Those 6 brave people went and stood against the First Amendment fascism of the corporately George Soros funded left. Let's have hundreds of people show up where they're slated speakers by the student group to stand up for free speech and stand up against this Maoist level tyranny. Joe Biggs, one more time, tell folks the date of the Portland situation. Do one more time for what's happening Friday.
So once again, Saturday the 16th at Portland State Students for Donald Trump. That'll be at 2 o'clock. That is the start time. I would arrive a little bit early and get ready to go in there. The location is at the Smith Memorial Student Union, and that's at 1825 Southwest Broadway.
April 15th, the GOP protest in Colorado will be at Greenwood Village, Colorado from 3 to 6. Put all the address information and maps in the article and in this description of the video.
All right, fantastic, folks. Hey, stand up for the First Amendment, stand up for your voting rights. There should be an election in Colorado and other states. There should be a thing called voters. Soon they're going to say voters never existed and it's a conspiracy theory. I'm not joking. Now's the time to stand up for free speech and freedom of the press and voting or lose it all.